Welcome to the UCM Interface Bible Study dito sa 702 DZAS FEBC Radio TV, Agapay ng Sambayanan. Isa itong conversational expository Bible study program hatid sa inyo ng UCM Interface, ang Young Adults Ministry ng Union Church of Manila. We do our best to study context and let Scripture speak for itself. Ang programang ito ay isang teaching ministry ng Union Church of Manila, a church of many nations committed to making disciples who are transformed by the gospel of Jesus Christ.
My name is Megan.
And hello, everyone. My name is Mitch. I am a writer, editor, educator, mom, and everything in between.
Wow,
All right. Okay, so now we are on our third episode sa Book of Ruth. We'll be discussing Ruth chapter 3. The Book of Ruth. Ruth chapter 3. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her,
My daughter, should I not seek rest for you, that it may be well with you? Is not Boaz, our relative, with whose young women you were? See, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Wash, therefore, and anoint yourself, and put on your cloak, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. But when he lies down, observe the place where he lies. Then go and uncover his feet, and lie down, and he will tell you what to do.
and she replied,
All that you say, I will do.
So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had commanded her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down. At midnight, the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. He said,
Who are you?
and she answered,
I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer.
and he said,
May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask, for all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman. And now it is true that I am a redeemer, yet there is a redeemer nearer than I. Remain tonight, and in the morning, if he will redeem you, good. Let him do it. But if he is not willing to redeem you, then, as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until the morning.
So she lay at his feet until the morning, but arose before one could recognize another. And he said,
Let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor.
and he said,
Bring the garment you are wearing and hold it out.
So she held it, and he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her. Then she went into the city, and when she came to her mother-in-law, she said,
How did you fare, my daughter?
Then she told her all that the man had done for her, saying,
These 6 measures of barley he gave to me, for he said to me, You must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law.
She replied,
Wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today.
Okay, ano, game na tayo?
Yes.
Game.
Yeah, game. We ended Ruth chapter 2 with Ruth gleaning in the fields of Boaz, right? And it gives us a sense of hope, and it also rightfully brings hope to Naomi as well. I mean, if we remember chapter 1, what did Naomi say when she came back to Bethlehem?
Oh, hindi na ako blessed.
Yeah, I'm bitter. I'm full of bitterness, right? And she felt empty. But now we see 2 chapters after. Maybe it's not so empty after all, right? And we see a change in Naomi's thinking, but also in the way that she interacts with Ruth. She says, My daughter, should I not seek rest for you, that it may be well with you? So she looks outward now, right? The thing about bitterness, I think, is that it turns us inwards. It's all about us.
That's right.
It's very narrow.
Yeah.
But when we get a glimpse of hope, we start to turn outwards and we start to serve others, right? So
Right.
now we see that Naomi is looking outward. She's looking at what Ruth needs. in this verse, we see that Naomi is saying that Ruth needs rest.
Right, that's right.
So rest yung sa translation mo.
Yeah. What is it in yours?
It says home.
Same. Mine says permanent home.
Wow.
Permanent pa, hindi
interesting.
talaga.
Oo. Hindi temporary.
Yeah, wow.
Pagkakabasa ko dito, 'di ba, yung rest na to, it's not the way that we understand rest na parang chill,
Mm.
ay
No.
salamat, vacation, mga ganun. Yung rest meaning yung security and benefit found in marriage.
Right.
Yes.
So
Correct.
it's a
Yes.
place of
Yes.
tranquility.
A place of security.
Oo, yun yung rest na sinasabi dito.
It's refuge.
Yeah.
Alam mo to, ano to may katumbas sa Tagalog eh. We have this expression, pag yung mag-aasawa na, yung malagay ka sa tahimik.
I've heard it a long time ago. I haven't heard it in a while.
It's a very similar expression, I would say.
Yun, gusto ko nang mailagay sa tahimik. Alam mo sa mga radio drama.
Oo, yun eh. Radio drama talaga.
Ayun.
Oo.
Pero speaking of radio drama, 'di ba, na naalala ko yung sinabi ni Mitch before, parang anti-telenovela na everybody's so nice to each other.
Oo.
Yeah.
It's interesting dito kasi yung focus na ni Naomi is, I should seek rest for you. I should serve you. Eh, di ba, doon naman si Ruth para rin kay Naomi eh.
Yeah.
I agree with Megan. When you are, maybe depressed or something, ganyan, may pinagdadaanan ka, you tend to be inward looking. But this time, her attitude had changed from
Yeah.
being self-absorbed to having concern for Ruth and her welfare, no? Dati kasi parang namatayan lang talaga si Naomi, but now she's been restored to life.
May
And
glimmer
she's
of
now
hope.
taking the initiative. Oo.
Kasi dito, it's you will be provided for eh.
Yeah.
Hindi niya sinabing na
Yeah.
parang,
Ano ba yung benefit dyan sa akin? Mga ganun,
What's
di ba?
in it for me?
she was really thinking of the she really saw kasi, Ruth as her daughter na. Diba?
Oo.
Grabe rin naman yung commitment ni Ruth kasi.
Pinagdaanan
Grabe rin
nila.
naman yun.
So, Naomi knew that Ruth needed rest, but
Yes.
where would they find that rest in Bethlehem? Remember, it's the time of the judges. Well,
Yes.
it's risky
yes.
for the other party. Okay, so who does Naomi think Ruth can find rest in?
Boaz.
Siyempre.
Boaz.
Wala nang iba.
Oo, wala na.
And so we see that Naomi is actually, as what Mitch mentioned earlier, she's already taking on the parental role for Ruth, right? In those days, the parents made marriage arrangements for their kids.
Yeah.
And Naomi sees an opportunity over this period of gleaning, which is around 7 weeks, give or take.
Sige, can you explain it?
Oh, kasi ano yan eh, halo-halo pa yan eh. Ang ginagawa nila, if you go to a threshing floor, ang location niya somewhere elevated. Why?
Oo.
Kasi pag yung meron kang fork, winnowing fork, tapos itatapon mo sa air yung grain with halo pa siya, may chaff, may dirt, whatever. When you throw it up in the air, babagsak yung grain because it's heavy. So mahihiwala yung grain.
Magaang yung ipa, so...
Yeah.
Ewan ko kayo kung na-experience yung magtahip, yung nagtatahip ng bigas. May bilao.
Oh, yung may bilao.
Oo.
Tatapong patas.
Parang ganun. Except this one, you're using a winnowing fork. Yeah, same principle.
Yeah.
The purpose is to separate the grain from the straw and chaff.
And Naomi gives specific instructions to Ruth, which I find very interesting. She says in verse 3, "Wash therefore and anoint yourself and put on your cloak."
In my translation, she says, take a bath, put on perfume, and dress in your nicest clothes. Mas malandi. Kasi may perfume eh.
Well,
diba?
pero kasi din, ang pagkaintindi ko nun sa culture nila, kasi there was no specific mention of what kind of fabric that yung damit na isusuot mo. If it's this special kind of linen, yun yung medyo...
May intention.
Oo.
So may ano pala sila, no? May ganun. Like some fabric means certain things.
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
Pero dito, ang tingin ko lang naman, yung you can now return to your normal life.
Don't dress like a widow.
Oh,
Ganon.
okay. Yeah.
Yun.
So maybe, she was like wearing mourning clothes? I'm not sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
Di ba sa atin, ewan ko pero kasi nung, I remember when my mother died, elementary ako nun eh. We had to wear this black pin
Or armband.
for a whole year until magbabang luksa. Pag nagbabang luksa na, okay na hindi mo na isuot yung black pin or something like
Tama,
that. Siguro na. Tapos there are certain colors you can't wear.
Put on your best clothes.
Yeah, or not even just necessarily your best clothes, but look presentable type.
Look nice.
Yeah, look nice.
Oo. Ano lang, parang get on with normal life. Yan.
Okay.
Ganyan na. Pwede na.
And then after that, she also says, put on your cloak, right?
Yeah.
Probably to protect her, right? From being recognized. Remember that it's the time of the judges and she is a single
okay.
foreigner. But when he lies down, observe the place where he lies. It's because there's a feast. And then people go home after the feast, except the men who were assigned to winnow the barley, to move the grains to the storage to ensure security, right?
Masipag pala talaga si Boaz, kung ganun.
Yeah. He's part of the men who will spend the night guarding the grains, right?
Considering he's the owner.
Considering he's the owner. But when he lies down, observe the place where he lies, then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. So actually, interestingly, the phrase uncover his feet is in Hebrew. It's pronounced maraglov, if I'm not mistaken.
Maraglot.
Yeah. And feet in Hebrew is actually, surprise, a euphemism for private parts. So if you read this, it's super scandalous, really.
Kaya
Like in
pala. Scandalous.
Naku, ano pala to?
Rated R, right?
Rated R ang ating episode na to. Kung ganun, Itong ginagagawa ni Naomi kay Ruth could be a customary means of requesting marriage. But it's in the context of levirate marriage.
Yeah. In verse 9.
Okay. Oo.
So hindi siya normative.
In their culture, okay.
I mean, there is that parang sexual element dito, diba?
Suggestion.
But it's also fulfilling your obligation.
Ah.
Kasi kung levirate marriage siya, may parang duty involved.
Yeah.
Yun.
Yeah.
That's a very good
Yeah.
point.
So hindi lang siya yung the way that we look at marriage ngayon na very romantic.
Yes.
Dito, hindi lang ganun siya. It's
Yeah. It's a responsibility.
there's some sort of duty. There's a responsibility that's happening here. And it's not just to Ruth, but also to the husband of Ruth. Sige.
So actually, verses 6 to 8 are just...
So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, wow, may tama na, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet.
Ruth does exactly what Naomi instructs her to do, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but then I was also thinking there's also a risk involved.
Please.
Kasi pwede ka naman ma-turn down ni
Wow,
Boaz.
totoo.
Diba may risk pa din. Hindi ito yung guaranteed na sasagutin yung proposal ko.
Yeah.
Tsaka imagine nung time na to, pitch black to eh.
Oo.
Wala naman silang mga nightlight or anything. So
Wala.
basta
So, hindi
may...
mo alam sino nandun.
Oo, kasi it could have been
Scary.
like, baka lang may papatay sa'yo sa gitna ng gabi, di ba?
Well, surprising Boaz, that could also be risky.
He had eaten and drunk. And it may not necessarily mean that he was drunk,
Yeah,
right?
it's just
No.
like the past tense of drink.
Yeah.
Parang happy ka. Dami mong kinain. Sarap ng dinner mo. Dami mong
Oo.
fiesta kayo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
happy lang.
Tapos so, she came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down. Tapos nung midnight, nga,
Gulat siya.
startle.
Who are you? He asked. I am your servant, Ruth, she replied. Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer.
Spread your wings over your servant,
Okay.
Wow.
for you are... Doesn't that phrase sound familiar, guys?
Yes, in chapter 2.
Chapter
Oh.
2.
Chapter 2, verse 12, right?
Under whose wings you have come to take refuge.
Nice.
Ooh.
In verse 12 of chapter 2, that's about God.
Yeah, it's about God.
That you are taking refuge in Yahweh. But this time, kay Boaz niya in-address. May napansin lang ako dito because when Ruth introduced herself, she said, I am your servant. Siyempre, in English, servant.
Yeah,
Akala lang natin sa servant is, you know, perhaps like a slave. Hindi eh. Ang ginamit pala niya dito na word in Hebrew is different from the kind of servant na parang laborer or possession. Because that would be a different Hebrew word, that is sipa. But the word that she used here is ama, which suggests that she is one of those women who parang describes or connotes that I'm a woman and ready to get married. Dun pa lang, nagets na ni Boaz
Yeah,
her
yeah.
intention for being there.
I just wanted to add that in those times, marriage contracts actually talk about the men covering their wives with the wings of their garments.
Wow.
So
okay.
Boaz already knew that this was a marriage proposal.
Tsaka, I mean, lumabas na nga yung for you are a redeemer. Talking about the levirate marriage, the kinsman redeemer.
Yes.
And we also see here that Ruth herself is not just acting selfishly. She also recognizes that she's the only living family member who could continue Elimelech's line.
That's
Yes,
right.
That's a good insight.
I mean, remember that Naomi's too old to bear kids and Orpah went back to Moab. So,
Dala-dala niya yung bola.
Ang bigat ng responsibility na to.
Siya na lang yung pwede. Dala-dala niya yung pangalan. Hindi lang nang sa kanya, hindi lang yung kay Naomi, pati kay Elimelech, pati kay Malon. Dala-dala niya.
Right.
And itong
Tama,
responsibility falls
in the hands of a foreigner.
A foreign woman.
Who is a widow.
Yes.
And like Orpah, she could have just walked away from this. Na parang, not my responsibility.
Not my problem.
Yeah.
Kasi may options siya.
She had an out.
She could have gone home.
Diba?
Pero makikita mo dito kay Ruth na,
So she's not doing this for herself.
Yeah.
yes,
Ay,
yes.
grabe, ang selfless naman talaga ni Ruth.
Okay, so verse 10, Gotch, if you could please read it.
And he said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich."
Wow, my daughter.
This line between my daughter and then yung you have not gone after young men, it makes it clear here na meron talagang age gap na malaki.
Yes.
Meron.
Super age gap.
Tito level talaga si Bo.
Oo.
So he belongs to the class na Titos of Bethlehem. Yeah.
And so he's also affirming that Ruth is a very Hayil character, right?
A
Ayun.
woman of
Yes.
noble character.
Not her first act was when she came back with Naomi to Bethlehem, right? And then the second is this marriage proposal, everything that's unfolding here. A younger man would have been a much suitable prospect, especially in terms of being able to provide kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, ang ganda lang kasi na sinabi ni
Oo.
Boaz. In the NIV it says, this kindness is greater
Than the first.
It's greater than just coming back with Naomi.
Here it says your family loyalty. So it goes beyond kindness. It really is loyalty. That's what she's showing here.
Allegiance.
Allegiance.
Faithfulness.
Yes.
Commitment.
Commitment. Ang
Mm-mm.
ganda-ganda pala.
So Boaz continues in verse 11. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask, for all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman. A worthy woman.
Dito, virtuous. A
Mhm,
virtuous
that's right.
woman. So may reputation na talaga si Ruth by this time.
Meron.
Respeto.
Who had Hayil already.
Yeah, and that's the same word that's used here to describe Ruth's character. She's a woman of Hayil.
Yes, Hayil.
So Ruth, a Moabite, is now being praised among the people of Bethlehem
Yeah.
because she's not serving her own self-interest. So he's not the nearest redeemer pala.
Oho.
Okay.
So ina-acknowledge ni Boaz na meron palang parang hierarchical structure within the clan.
Yeah.
Na dapat ito munang mauuna kaysa sa akin. Okay. Pero he's very conscious about, okay, this is my obligation, but the law also says, ano yan? This is not legalism, pero yung faithfulness lang niya sa law.
Yeah.
Yes.
God's law.
So basically, ayaw lang niya mag-shortcut. Parang hindi siya mag-shortcut.
Oo. And also, I guess, ayaw niyang may matapakan, diba? Na parang,
Oo.
Being considerate.
Kasi itong kinsman redeemer na role, hindi to volunteer.
Hindi to voluntary.
yeah, it's an obligation.
It's a responsibility. It's commanded. It's a duty.
Yes.
Diba? Yung wording dun sa Deuteronomy is to perform the duty
Okay.
of kinsman redeemer. It's not optional.
Oo.
Pero
Yes.
since yung closest was not doing it,
Curious, diba? He hadn't contacted them in some way? Or was he not aware?
or didn't care.
Oo nga naman, ano.
Maybe he wasn't willing or something.
Or was he iffy because she was a Moabite?
At saka, naku naman, magastos naman yun, ano? Kung meron ka ng pamilyang pinapakain, kukuha ka pa ng papakainin mong, di ba? Magdadagdag ka pa ng responsibility.
And then makita mo pa si Boaz dito na the usual thing is to not care about the law. And then si Boaz dito is, even dito, ayaw pa niya mag-shortcut. Pinili niya yung hassle.
Totoo, kasi okay na naman siguro yung buhay ni Boaz without Ruth. Okay na yung buhay niya. Bakit ka pa kukuha ng baton parang ipupukpuk mo sa ulo? Parang ganun yung dating, di ba? Consistent. Kasi maski nga yung gleaning laws, remember? Yung application na ng gleaning law, sabi niya dun sa workers, sadyain nyo na, ilaglag nyo na yung mga stocks. Di ba yung ganun? Hindi na yun, wala na yun sa law.
So above and beyond, din talaga
Yes.
yung character ni Boaz above and beyond.
Yeah, because what the law simply states is like the minimum requirement. O bahala ka na how you're going to show your generosity.
It seems like he understands the heart of the law.
Yan.
Exactly.
So that he's able to go above and beyond it, right?
Yes.
So in verse 14,
So she lay at his feet until the morning, but arose before one could recognize another. And he said, "Let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor." Sino ba kausap niya dito? Yung mga tauhan niya.
Hindi clear sa...
Hindi clear eh.
Hindi kasi clear eh.
Oo, it just says here, he had said, no one must know.
It could also be talking to her.
He could just have said it.
Yeah, out loud.
No one should know.
Kasi kung may makalaman, ay chichismis
Yes,
to, di ba?
oo.
May babaeng pumunta nung sa gitna ng gabi. Siyempre, kung machismis na may babaeng pumunta sa gitna ng gabi, ano isipin nila?
Right,
Even if her intention was honorable, alam mo na, mga tao nagsasalita.
Oo, di ba? And kahit walang nangyari, di ano yung i-assume ng mga tao.
Yep.
So, ang ginagawa ni Boaz dito, it's also to protect the reputation of Ruth.
That's
Yes.
right.
Well, his own reputation also, but then also of Ruth.
Yes.
Yes.
And as a side note lang din, kasi may mga nagbabasa ng kwento na to, and at this point, sinasabi nila na may nangyari.
Oh,
Parang
really?
ganun. Ini-insert nila. Kasi usually, pag nanood ka ng Netflix, pag nanood ka ng mga more contemporary material, usually, that's where scenes like these go.
Yeah.
Parang yan yung fade. Scene. Tapos fade. The next day.
Oh, yun, di ba? Tapos may music na maganda, fade.
So, ibig mong sabihin, yung iba, the way they see this, may nangyaring like sexual contact?
Oo. Some people put that reading, and I think
Wala.
it's... kasi yun yun, I think it's putting a very modern lens in.
Yeah, that's right.
Oo.
Yeah, with our idea of how relationships should go between men and women.
Mhm.
Yeah, oo. Pero yun nga, it ignores a very important message. Na yung characters dito are characters of Hail eh.
Tama.
Yes.
Na
Tama.
sa mundo ng judges, where everybody did whatever they wanted,
Yeah, it's a contrast.
oo, it's a contrast na
Mm-mm.
these are people who live life in obedience and holiness.
That's right.
Oo.
And it's very refreshing kasi you come, right after Judges and you have these stories of people getting raped and murdered and lahat na. And then suddenly you have this very small town,
Small town with small people, with small events.
And they're pure.
Yes, and it's very quiet and pure. And it's very nice, diba? It's very refreshing.
Breath of fresh air.
Yes.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I think for me, I mean, just as a little takeaway from that one, it's huwag nating mamaliitin yung mga buhay na lived in holiness, pero hindi naman na jajaryo,
Yes.
hindi naman na nagva-viral.
Totoo.
Oo.
So let's move on. So in verse 15,
Then he said, "Bring the garment you are wearing and hold it out." And she held it, and he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her. Then she went into the city.
so 6 measures is around 80 pounds to 36 liters of
Grabe.
barley.
Binitbit ni Ruth yun?
Batak talaga tong si Ruth eh. It could be na in case na makita siya, parang may props siya na isipin na, nagagather lang siya ng grain.
Pwede rin.
Night shift
Oo.
na gathering ng
Night
grain.
shift.
Night shift.
Meron ba nun?
Just to add to protection, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. And some commentators have actually observed the significance of the number 6 here, which we know signifies incompleteness because number 7 is the complete.
Ah.
Okay.
So here we see that the seed is still incomplete because in the following chapter, that's when we'll see that Ruth gets to complete her rest.
Tutuparin natin yan
Sa next
chapter.
chapter.
Okay.
So in verse 16, Naomi asks Ruth, "How did you fare?" So actually, the question, "How did you fare?" is actually translated as "Who are you?" But I think it's a question that we see sprinkled throughout the past few chapters of Ruth, right? Boaz asks this question of Ruth too, like, who is Ruth?
Who is this young woman?
Oo.
Who are you?
Yeah.
So now we see that Ruth responds to the "How did you fare?" question by saying that, "Oh, he gave me 6 measures of barley, and he said that I must not go back empty-handed to you." Remember that in chapter 1, we see that word empty.
Yes. Verse 21. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty.
Okay.
And now Boaz is giving that gift, which doesn't leave her empty anymore.
Okay.
Galing.
And I think it's important to note here is also that God's grace isn't always just theoretical also. It's actual material grace, like 6 measures of
That's
barley.
true.
And we see that God is providing for their physical hunger but also spiritual rest through Boaz.
So may reversal na kasi 'di ba empty nung una, that's how she perceived
that's how-
herself. And then here, they're not empty anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in verse 18, Naomi just tells Ruth, let's just wait for him to come back to us because he'll surely settle the matter today.
Yeah.
So, I guess dito, confident na talaga si Naomi na, yep, hintay ka lang.
Sit tight.
Solid yan.
Yeah. Aayusin
Solid
niya
yan.
yan. maasahan mo siya.
It's very tempting to narrow down the book of Ruth into like a love story of boy meets girl. But in reality, it's so much more. I mean, it doesn't even have the factors of a typical Hollywood romance. Boaz is a lot older than Ruth. Ruth carries heavy bundles of grain. And we see that the commitment Boaz and Ruth exhibited was not even based on their physical attributes at all.
That's true.
It's based on their hayil. It's based on their character.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Kung titingnan lang natin yung character ni Ruth tsaka ni Boaz, ito yung mga people of hayil. Nakikita natin yung character nila na they go above and beyond. Diba? And I think that's one way to measure character is just how much are we willing to give beyond the minimum, beyond what is required.
Yung idea kasi natin of marriage is very intimate, very sexual, very personal. But here, it's marriage as a communal act. It's marriage as being part of this community, being part of this family, and essentially honoring your commitments to God.
The welfare of other people, in fact.
Yes, the welfare and protection of other people.
Yeah.
That romantic, kilig aspect is not saying na wala siya doon. I mean, meron siguro in some marriages, pero hindi yun yung foremost niya. That's not the foundation for a marriage.
That's
right.
And that's, I think, what God is trying to remind us of here. Kasi ibang-iba na ang definition of marriage na yun.
Yeah.
The way that marriage is treated now, it's treated very casually. And it's very, yun nga, emotions nga, di ba? Yung sinasabi nga na, parang it's the love that sustains marriage. Kaya, pagka wala na yung love, wala na yung mga
Wala na yung
feelings,
kilig-kilig.
ano yung sinasabi nila? I've fallen out of love. Diba? I've fallen out of love. Kaya split na kami. Ang tinuturo ng Bible about marriage is it's the marriage that sustains the love. Whatever I feel, it's the commitment. It is the covenant that sustains the love.
That's nice.
right.
And it's not just a covenant between two people. God is always included in that covenant. Hindi na ganun ngayon ang focus no?
Yeah.
This is a commitment, first and foremost, to the Lord.
Since we're in that topic, going to Ephesians, marriage, yung sinasabi ni Paul, it is a mystery.
A picture of Christ and the church.
But I'm talking about Christ and the church.
Right.
There's a cosmic reflection of the wonder and beauty of Christ's commitment to the church.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up because in Ephesians chapter 5, that's when he quoted Genesis 2:24. Yung cleaving, that whole concept. And that definition of marriage, of course, describes the exclusivity of the relationship. But then, biglang bawi si Paul Sabi niya, wait, I'm actually talking about Christ and the church.
Yeah.
So marriage then becomes sort of like an acted out parable, a dramatized parable.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
right. That's
That
right.
this parable portrays the love of Jesus for the church.
Yeah.
In other words, Mitch, pag nakikita kayo ni Joel na mga kaibigan nyo, sabihin nila, that's exactly how Jesus loved the church.
Yes.
That's what you're portraying in your relationships. Hindi na yung, the usual romantic.
Our dynamic, the way that we treat each other and the honor I give him and the love he gives me is supposed to reflect that.
Also as a married man, yung idea na what great responsibility and accountability I have
Yes.
in knowing that this marriage is supposed to be a reflection. People are looking at my marriage sa aking napakasimpleng marriage. And they should see the servanthood, the love, the wonder, and the beauty of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful picture, and that's what we are to reflect.
Yeah.
Yan na naman tayo sa reflectors of God's image, of His beauty and everything.
Balik tayo doon.
I just wanted to add also because Gutch mentioned it earlier. I think among my contemporaries, like among the younger millennials, marriage has really turned into such an idol. Like, that's the end goal for most people. And they forget that the end goal is really to reflect God. That's the goal. And marriage is an avenue.
Yun.
Yes. Well, guess what, guys? When y'all get married, it's not the end. But wait, there's more.
Oh man, it's beyond the scope of this topic, but let me just say na people look at marriage as a happily ever after. Kami ni
Yes.
Mitch will tell you it's once upon a time. It's the start of a
In
story.
the beginning.
Yeah, it's the start of a story. And if you're not willing to be Christ-like, you could very well be the villain of that. So, whether we're married or single, are we willing to be the people that God is calling us to be? Living in obedience, will not do shortcuts, diba? And we live in holiness.
How we treat those who are more vulnerable than us.
Yeah.
People who are going the extra mile, not just doing the minimum, but going above and beyond in serving.
Giving each other barley. Kaya pala lagi akong pinapakain ng asawa ko. Joke lang.
So I think, going back there, it's really, are we gonna serve? Are we gonna reflect Christ?
That's right.
And if you're married, single, whoever you are, whatever station you're in life, you can still ask yourself that.
How can I serve?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in one sentence, how can I serve you? How can we serve God together?
Beautiful.
Whatever season we are in life, when we are following Jesus, that means that we are going to reflect His character.
That's our why. That's our purpose.
Yeah. So, doon nagtatapos ang Ruth chapter 3. We do hope to see you guys in the next few weeks para sa ating last episode. So, thanks and God bless.
God bless.
Bye.
God bless.
Thank you.
You have listened to the UCM Interface Bible Study here at 702 DZAS FEBC Radio TV, Agapay ng Sambayanan. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, 702 DZAS FEBC Radio TV, and Facebook account, 702 DZAS FEBC Radio. Hear our full episodes on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, at marami pang iba. Join us at Union Church of Manila, Rada, Corno Legazpi, Makati City.